Nope, and today's video going to be about Lexus RX350 2008, and we're going to be replacing the struts and shock absorbers. And as far as you can see, it's all covered in some type of mud. It means it's been leaking for a long time and it's dry, so it's making weird noises, squeaking, scrapey, bouncy, and so on and so on.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. We have assembly, and you can find them anywhere from $100 for a pair all the way to like $1,000. We already replaced the passenger side, and now we're gonna be working with the driver's side, and it's pretty simple process. Everybody know how to remove the wheel, lug nuts right there. So we have couple screws and nuts. So the first and basically the toughest one gonna be the 14 mil, and also the Allen key in the center. This is going to be the stabilizer. Then a speed sensor, which is 10 mil, and also the brake line, which is behind. I think it's 13 mil or a half inch. And the last but not least, we have two giant bolts, which is located very at the bottom of the actual absorber. Sorry for the light. They are 22 mil. I'm going to use the metal brush WD-40 for basically preparing the job, and then we're gonna go inside of the car and I'll show you how to remove those three bolts, which is holding to the body of the car. Okay, the first step, I'm just removing all the wires and connectors, which is pretty easy. 10 mil, really short one, you don't have to. But next step is going to be 13 mil, if you possibly could see it. Bolt for a brake line, it's gonna be 12 mil. Okay. So the next step is gonna be link, 5.5 mil actual Allen key, which is inside. So basically we're using WD-40. Make sure Allen key is nice and snug. So I'm using just a pin tool to clean it up, whatever is in there. Bunch of rust. Caution and slowly. The knot here is gonna be 14 mil. Just going back and forth with the wrench, and as far as it starts moving, you just go farther and farther. You can go hard right away, but that's the only part which is basically require a little bit of patience. So after we remove all the bolts and nut, just spray it with WD-40, or if you have some type of lubrication, you can do that. In that case, it's gonna be easier to install them back or remove it if you're gonna need it. Hope not. So for that job I didn't mention, we need two jack stands. Jack, Mr. Jack. To remove the link safely without damaging the threads, you have to raise all the construction. So be careful with the hub itself, and especially if you're using the jack stand, it can shoot out from underneath, so you gotta be pretty cautious about it and make sure you're not putting too much stress on it. So as you can see, the bolt is straightened out and we can move it freely. But for right now, we're gonna need to remove two bolts here, which is 22 millimeters, as I mentioned earlier. Last but not least bolt to remove it, actually two of them. That's gonna be the main two support bolts, which is 22 millimeters. Okay. They are pretty tight. Also make sure nothing going to slip and you're not gonna damage the car. And the second one, it's gonna be a little bit more kind of challenging because you have less space to play with. Oh yeah. I usually take the rubber hammer after I remove the bolts, since we're not tight in there anymore, and hit it a couple of times. So it's supposed to release tension on an area. And as you can see, we can easily remove the bolts. But the next step is gonna be removing three bolts at the top inside of the car. And let's jump inside and I'll show you where to remove those bolts.
Кто хныкал, блядь, на все видео.
Covers, plastic covers, and you use the plastic tool, whatever you have. You can use your finger and jam it inside. The cover, you're going to find three studs and 14 mils. I'm using a power tool, but I'm not unscrewing it all the way because if we're going to drop the nut, we're gonna need to remove that little kind of shield which is tightened all over the place. So I'll show you the technique what I'm gonna be using for removing those nuts safely. They're not really tight, and be careful, don't unscrew it all the way until you can kind of fish it with the hand. So as far as you can, unscrew it and basically leave it on the edge, and then use the magnet, tap it to the top and try to unscrew it. Since it's been always inside of the car, there shouldn't be any rust inside in there. So those nuts are gonna be pretty clean and pretty easy to remove it. Okay, the last bolt, it's really easy to unscrew it. Push the liner all the way down and pull it out of the bolt, the nut. Anyway, let's hop under the car and remove that bastard. We have two bolts which is still here. You just can hammer them out. Which is, you do the bottom one first. Wiggle it, remove it. But the top one, in that case, it's going to be a little bit harder. So if you have any troubles with that, just use something flat, hit it in the center. After that, you basically push the hub inward and slowly release it. It's not gonna fail, it's not gonna pop out, it's still gonna be jammed a little bit in there. At that point, just make sure the brake line or the other lines, it's not gonna be on the way as far as you hammer it. The assembly, make sure you're holding it also because it's gonna fall down. And now simply, without tearing any pieces, and slowly trying to remove the assembly. And there are beauty. So the biggest and the first sign of starting having any troubles with the assembly, which is gonna be the shock absorber actually. The protective boot is broken, just tear it down in tiny smithereens. It's already like really nasty smears of who knows what. And as far as you can see, it's all covered in some type of mud. It means it's been leaking for a long time and it's dry, so it's making weird noises, squeaking, scrapey, bouncy, and so on and so on. So the car gonna be much more comfortable. It's gonna be much smoother to drive, and overall, it's gonna be driving better.
Oh, so that's why it was so noisy. That looks very bad already. And squeezy. It was so hard to drive it. It used to make so many weird noises.
We have a new strut, and we also have a nut here, basically 3 nuts. My suggestion, do not use them because the original one, they're kind of different. It's up to you. You can do it, you don't have to, but it is what it is. So just do whatever you want, okay? Before installation, check it out if every kind of connectors are straight. And after that, let's pop that beauty on and we'll see how does it go. Same way as we remove the old one, the same way we're going to put the new one in. First, I'm going to pop the top in there, and basically don't worry about the studs. We're gonna do it after all. But before anything, just make sure every wire or housing is just out of the way. So then you can be more concentrated for the opening at the top. And it's kind of a little bit complicated. You might gonna need to twist it from the right to the left, from left to the right. All the arms gonna go down even lower than they are right now. You can push it down, and as you can see, they kind of like spring loaded. But anyway, after that, just try to fit at least one bolt. And as you can see, it's not that hard. Also, I mentioned it earlier in the video, clean it before you install it, but I was rushing it. You gotta find a way to fish it through the bolt bottom. As you can see, the assembly also can move back and forth. Spread a little bit WD-40 on nut and bolt. In that case, as you can see, everything goes really smooth. Very smooth. Back to the trunk. We have our magnet, we have our nut, and as you can see, You can get those magnets from the Napa or so, and they kind of pretty cheap. Can kind of screw it in a little bit, just a touch. That's more than enough to feed the socket. But if you have ability to use the torque wrench, it's gonna be even better. Okay, and the last step, I'm going to use the wrench and just type it up like good enough. Better whenever you use the torque wrench. The last but not least important thing, it's a link stabilizer. So jack stand for a little bit. And as you can see, that was really easy and really simple because we did a little bit up with the WD-40, which is awesome. Tap it up a little bit. Then the next step is gonna be speed sensor. The last bolt is brake line, which is located right behind in there. Tap it up. You're gonna tell me I keep those guys, they're not tight. I know that. We're going to use the pipe to tie them up, but we got a low battery in camera and we're not going to be able to show you the rest of it, or at least the finishing. Make sure everything is tight, and then pop the wheel back and you're ready to go. If this video was helpful, please put the thumbs up button there. It's going to help me a lot. Let me comment below for if you have any questions, but I don't think it's like straightforward. And yeah, subscribe my channel. We're going to have much more video coming. Anyway, I'll see you next time.